post any questions in the chat. Feel free to make any comments. Feel free to use the emojis. Just so I know I'm not talking to myself, somebody give me a wave if you can, or drop a message in the chat, a hi in the chat. And like if you can help me read that as well, just to see responses that are coming through. Is there anybody there?
Yeah, we're here. Andrew is also there to do that for us too. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, guys, so just a very, very quick introduction to PMI. Many of you know PMI, the Project Management Institute. We are a 51-year-old organization, and we're the organization behind some of the global gold standards in project management certifications, such as the PMP and many other certifications. At the heart of the organization is a value called volunteerism, as in we believe in actually volunteering our time or spending our time to make an impact. That's why we have, as you can see there, over 14,000 volunteers from all around the world sign up to PMI and work with us to make an impact around the world. What we do is we call it making reality or make reality. What all this means is, if you have an idea, you have a vision, you have a purpose, how do you do that? You do that by applying certain principles, certain ways of working, which we call project management. So project management is a way of making reality. We work with organizations and universities all around the world. And in Africa, our clients include a number of universities, such as University of Pretoria and many, many more. In terms of organizations, I'll touch on that in a little bit. Our model in terms of how we interact and train people is that we don't necessarily train people directly ourselves. We have what we call training partners or authorized training partners or ATPs. So you will have training companies who will come to PMI and say, PMI, we want to be able to use your content to train our market. Can we become authorized? And we work with the training companies to become authorized, and they go ahead and train the market. In some instances, we have e-learning where you can get the e-learning directly from us. So in terms of certified professionals, there are over 12,000 certified professionals across Africa and more than 11,000 people who are PMI members. And just some interesting data on PMI in Africa, we have what we call the Pulse of the Profession research. This is research that we do every year all around the world. We ask project managers and change makers how their projects are going, what staff have they recruited, what are the dynamics, and every year we produce this report. Some of the data from Africa shows that 62% of organizations in Africa have a PMO. A PMO is a project management office, and 64% of organizations in Africa have ongoing training for staff. This data is on par with the global data. So it's good to see that Africa is doing at least more than what the rest of the world is doing as well. And then 30% of the budget lost if project fails. You want to make sure that you minimize the amount of money you lose working on projects, and this is a key statistic. So that's an overview of PMI in Africa, but what exactly do we provide? PMI
Hello,
sorry, George.
George, you're on mute.
Sorry, George. Can you unmute yourself?
All right, you're on mute, George. Yeah, better.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
How long have I been on mute?
About 2 minutes, around 2 minutes or so. 1 minute there.
2 minutes, the whole presentation.
No, George. I believe it's
about
just
1 minute thereabouts, not 10 minutes.
10
Okay.
seconds. It wasn't that long.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go back. This slide just tells us about PMI in Africa, right? So we've got chapters in 20 countries. A chapter is...
You've completed this slide before you went mute. You have completed this slide.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I'm going to go to the next one then. So,
Correct.
what does PMI do generally? So what we do, you can split into 3 buckets. On the left, you have the learning and professional networks. In the middle, you've got certifications. On the right-hand side, you've got standards and digital products. I'm not going to go into detail here, but what we're here to talk about today is Discipline Agile. The message I want to leave you here with is that PMI does a lot to help both project managers and change makers, as you can see. For project managers, we've got the typical project management certifications, such as the PMP. But for change makers are those people whose job title is not necessarily a project manager, but yet still they're working in project management, whether they know it or not. So a change maker could be an entrepreneur. A change maker could be a marketeer who's running a marketing campaign. That is a project management initiative. So we have various support systems and tools to be able to help them to do that. This is all that you see on the screen. So we can speak at a later time or later date just in terms of that. But the point is, we do a lot to help project managers and change makers all around the world. And then we work with many organizations around the world. We have what we call the Global Executive Council, which is the leading organizations all around the world who are networked with PMI. From Africa, we have Dangote and several others. As you can see there, we really support some of the world's game changers to help them execute on what they do. Why is project management important? And when we talk about project management, it's not only traditional project management, it's also what we call modern project management, such as in Agile, which is what we're here to talk about today. But why is it important? Because we're talking about the return on investment. We're talking about making sure that the vision really is achieved. And our research shows that actually organizations that are mature, and by mature we mean that organizations who uh, spend time and invest in every area of the business, the project management side of the business, the marketing side of the business, the admin side of the business. Those are mature organizations where every aspect of the organization is invested in. Those organizations perform better when it comes to delivering within budget, on time, within scope, and also minimizing project failures. So it's clear actually from the research that project management does a lot to support the performance of organizations. The other piece of information I want to leave you with is, we looked at this report from McKinsey, which analyzes what are the top skills that organizations are using right now and that we'll need in the future going forward, and see that 4 of the top 5 skills are skills that PMI actually supports, promotes, and helps people to get trained on. So we're talking about critical thinking, leadership, project management, and continuous learning rather. These are the leading skills that, according to McKinsey, the world is organizations all around the world are literally employing internally. And then just a little bit on who we work with. I mentioned Dangote before. IBM has been with PMI for many years, and they specifically not only train their senior leaders on the PMP, but they also license PMI content so that they can create their own internal certifications. Then, of course, you've got organizations like Citibank, Tony Lumala Foundation. We work closely with them on their entrepreneurs. And I mentioned universities as well, Namibia Business School and University of Pretoria. So that's just very quickly who is PMI and some of the work we do. I'm happy to speak a bit more broadly after this session. But for now, let's get into the topic of discussion, which is how to become an Agile team coach. I'm going to hand over now to Emeka and John. Thank you very much, everyone, and welcome to the session.
All right, thank you so much, George, for that insightful discussion and highlight on PMI's engagement in Africa and generally about what PMI is involved in. At this point, I would like to welcome Abiodun Osoba to speak on the benefits of Scrum to organization. Then we proceed to introduction to, benefits of business agility to organization, which topic is going to take up. Then introduction to DA by Olalikon. Then John Muro takes over the stage, giving us an insight on how DA connects to Scrum and also business agility. So over to you, Abiodun Osoba. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Emeka. Thank you very much, George. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks to the rest of my other panels this morning. Thanks for everyone joining us from all over the place. I'm happy to be here. My name is Abiodun Osoba. I also go by Abi. I'm the CEO and founder of the Agile Advisor Africa and I'm also the chair at the Agile Practitioners Association of Nigeria. Our association, the Agile Practitioners Association of Nigeria, has just recently been sponsored by the Project Management Institute, the African chapter. And basically, as we've all heard George speak and Emeka has made references, PMI is really making an impact across Africa, across the world. And there is a discipline agile framework that's, really, really spreading its wings across the globe. And so we have added that as one of our offerings at our association. And so for people who are familiar with our work, you know that you can always reach out to us, and we would definitely direct you to how you can be one of the practitioners getting the discipline agile. And so I will quickly jump into my talk today. We're not new to Scrum. Um, Everyone is very, very familiar with what Scrum is. And that's why my focus will be talking about the benefits of Scrum. And so we all know that there's global competition that's increasing and so many demands and faster turnarounds, user-friendly platforms and flexible goals. And so Scrum, has very, very much today evolved beyond the walls of IT, like beyond technology. Organizations like healthcare, education, manufacturing, and so many industries have embraced Agile, embraced Scrum. I am a forerunner, and I know, and some of these organizations that I've mentioned, some of these industries I've mentioned, I'm very much involved working with them using Scrum. And even the Forbes survey um, shows that organizations that succeed at achieving greater agility have plenty rewards if they use Scrum. And so there's a lot of reports out there. Quick reference to George's slide, quicker innovation, 59%, even customer experience and product quality, 58% increase, and then heightened employee morale, 57% increase. So when organization embrace Scrum, those are the immediate quick turnaround benefits that you can begin to see. And so Scrum, basically, we know the origins, so I'm not going to take you anywhere near there. But I'm just going to quickly say that Scrum can actually empower teams to divide the work as they see fit. So while encouraging greater collaboration and providing increased visibility into a project's progress, the benefits of Scrum are far reaching, including reduced time to deliver new features, improved skills coverage across Scrum teams, and higher quality products. And so when we do sprints, which is part of Scrum, sprint reviews allows any defects to be identified earlier on in the process. And so with different industry and marketing stuff that's currently going on. If you looked on LinkedIn, you go onto Scrum Alliance, Agile Alliance, and so many other stuff out there about Scrum, right? Scrum actually has principles. So if you think about marketing, it's a rich data that focuses on its learnings. And so Scrum is the art at heart is a learning framework. Scrum is a learning framework. It's not just about getting work done faster. It's really about how do we learn as fast as possible, whether we're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And then how do we adapt based on that? So, for example, if we're relying on the Scrum iterative process, for example, maybe for a marketing department, you can actually validate and test hypotheses to determine why customers really want a particular product and how a series of targeted messages might increase revenue. And so this is a very, very practical example that I'm making reference to. And so, thanks to disruptive technologies such as cloud and mobile apps, the barriers to entry at almost any sector are quickly vanishing. And so, a lot of organizations are getting up and running. It's a digital age, and getting the right products and services out the door is now easier. And so, Scrum can increase the likelihood of success by enabling all industries to encourage collaboration, address complex situations, and quickly adapt to changing market trends. One thing I just want to leave you with as I wrap up is that the education sector, not in Nigeria, not in Africa, unfortunately, but outside of the walls of Africa, is getting the attention of Agile and Scrum principles. And so even traditional education institutions now face mounting competition. So chartered schools have multiplied and distance learning has increased dramatically in popularity. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of thought leaders are pioneering Agile in schools to help teachers and students thrive. So I'm sure maybe there will be a question, how can Scrum be applied to classroom? That's not the focus for this meeting, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I just want to say here that Scrum has many, many benefits. Due to time, I'm not going to be able to say more than this. And you can feel free to reach me after the session. I'm on LinkedIn, and you can also reach me through Emeka on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abby, for that wonderful presentation. So we move over to Taufik on business agility in organizations. Taufik, over to you.
Good morning.
Taufik, morning, yeah. Please go ahead, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Emeka, for this opportunity to be here. And thank you to George, who was up on the platform with his introduction, and Abby, that has done a very good job by laying the good foundation about Scrum. So what am I basically talking about? I'm talking about the importance of business agility to our organizations. Okay, just like every other thing that you've heard, I'm sure a lot of us have heard so much about Scrum, Agile, Save, different stuff. And as Africans, most especially as Nigerians, we love the buzzwords, right? So, but let's just go beyond the buzzwords and just look at how business agility helps our organization and is important to our organization. Okay, so but let's first of all start by understanding what business agility is all about. In a clear term, it's all about the ability of your organization to rapidly adapt to market and environmental changes, whether opportunities or threats. And with innovative and digitally enabled solutions, sometimes products. So, but how does this work in different organizations that are not so much into product development and all of that? So one thing we need to understand is that every organization comprises of one or more portfolios, and in portfolio management, we're focused on how to do the right work. And in doing the right work, the first thing you need to consider is to identify, categorize, and prioritize what is important to the organization and align it, to the strategic objective of your organization. And how do you go to the market quickly? How do you beat competition? And this is where Agile, comes, apart from you doing the right work, to ensure that you deliver, your way of working, it's Agile and lean, and to ensure that you are able to get your team, your product team, to start thinking quickly about getting those services to the market, because speed to the market is very important, when it comes to competitive edge of an organization. Why most organizations struggle to achieve business agility? Okay, business leaders, they understand, okay, that they are aware of the threats to their business, the impending disruption of their business model. But there's a difference between doing Agile and being Agile. Agility, business agility, is about the mindset first of the people doing the Agile. So you may have to change that. My name is Taufik Babayeju. Okay, so for correction, right? I did not introduce myself. I think at the end of this presentation, I'll do a proper introduction. So we know that our business models are being, our traditional business models are threatened, by the disruptions here and there. But business leaders are not able to respond quickly because they're still using the traditional methods of managing their delivery, and everything has gone lean, everything has gone agile. So your competition is having you for breakfast. And what would be the benefit of what are the many benefits of agile? My colleague has already started talking about that. Abby started talking about the benefits of agile, but I'm going to tell you about a benefit of business agility because number one, it helps the organization learn fast. Whether you're making a mistake, you're doing the wrong thing, or maybe you selected the wrong project, and the learning curve within the organization is closed faster, and you understand why you're making the mistakes you're making because you're not using the old traditional method of, oh, let's see everything to the end. So you do things in small iteration, and you get your results, test the markets, come back and get your minimum viable products to the market. Then again, you have increased competitive advantage as an organization because of that learning curve that is shorter. You have increased speed to the market. Your fastly what's it called? Your team collaboration is faster, and your organizational change adaptation is faster. And in all of this, what business agility teaches us is that from the project team to the leadership, everybody needs to adopt that mindset. It's not enough, to say you're doing agile within your organization, but you need to have a coaching mechanism within your organization. You need to have that leadership, and that is what discipline agile is all about. Because as it is right now for businesses, if you're not on the table, then you are likely going to be on the menu. And, God helps you, you may be served for lunch or dinner. So that's the reason why businesses today, more than ever, need to start going agile. By way of introduction, that'll be the end of my presentation. By way of introduction, my name is Taufik Babaejo. I lead Central Consulting, a business transformation organization. We do a whole lot of stuff from business transformation, digital transformation, learning and development, from project programs to portfolio level, and deploy PMOs for organizations. So I think my friend Olalekan Odukoya will take it off from here to introduce discipline agile properly to us. Thank you very much. Emeka, you can take it off from here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Taufik. My apologies also for the error in spelling your name. Over to you, Olalekan. I think at this point you can do justice in introducing discipline agile before John Muro takes over. All right, Olalekan, over to you. Thank you, Taufik.
Thank you, Emeka. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes. I should share the slide, right?
Yes.
No really need. I'll quickly just go through some things, and then I'll just share one thing with us to see. Okay, can everybody hear me clearly?
Loud and clear.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning, everybody, once again. And I'm very happy to be with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend this. I want to thank Abby for the great work she did for laying a good foundation by explaining what Scrum is, and also what Taufik has said about what business agility should look like in an ideal situation. What I want to talk about quickly is what discipline agile brings to the table. And I believe I'm talking to people who have experience in Scrum, who have done Agile for a while. And we're familiar with some of the challenges Agile has with going to the um,
Sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you.
Oh,
Yes, we
thank you
can.
so much. Sorry about that. Good. So we are familiar with the fact that Agile at team levels is easy to adapt because the disruption is not much. And Taufik has made us understand the simple fact that the reason why leaders tend to push against Agile is because they can see the disruption it brings to their business model. And like he rightly said, if they are not on the table, they are likely to be on the menu. Now, to prevent organizations from having those massive disruptions, one of what discipline agile essentially brings to the table is the simple fact that look at where you are today. No matter what your context is, you can still become agile. And what that means is that without massively retooling or reorganizing your organization, you can begin to adapt and adopt some certain practices that would make you increasingly agile up to the point that you can compete comfortably with your peers. So, take for example, I was working in a project a few years ago, and we couldn't do a proper retrospective, but we could still do something that made us have that quick feedback and make us be able to adapt to whatever thing that we wanted to achieve quickly. Now, what that means is that without adopting a Scrum, a SAFe, a Kanban methodology, the organization still gets to be agile. Now, one other thing that discipline agile brings to the table is the simple fact that it doesn't really matter where you are on your agile journey. You have a methodology, you are welcome. If it's SAFe, Scrum, any methodology you have, it's all open to you. All you need to do is just understand what the toolkit brings to you, and then you can work with that. Now, discipline agile itself is not a methodology, so you are not really learning a new framework or a new set of process. What discipline agile helps you to do is make you understand the decisions you need to make, what are the options you have, and what are your trade-offs. You understand that as a coach, you can walk into any team and any context and properly guide them to the point where they can gain agility. Now, so can I quickly share my screen? I just want to showcase something.
Please go ahead. Yeah, Nico.
Thank you so much. So in front of, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, it's coming up. Yeah, we can now.
Good. So this is a scenario. An organization wants to take funding, and these are the options right in front of them. John will do a proper job of this, but what I just want to quickly do is make us see that there are options for us, there are options for organizations, and Discipline Agile helps you to bring that context into whatever thing you want to do within organization and helps you to quickly ramp this up enterprise-wide. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Olalikon. Thank you for that brief introduction. I'll hand over to John to give us more details on discipline, agile, and business agility. Over to you, John.
Great. Good morning. Well, thanks for all the material so far. It's been great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share one of my slides here, and give me one sec. So you should be seeing the one that says Discipline Agile, how to become a coach. I guess let me start off by saying I read some of the comments in the chat, and they're all extremely valid. I think that questions about where does DA fit compared to other, products from PMI and Agile not being used necessarily as much in Africa. Hopefully those are questions that we got to answer. But by all means, obviously I can't answer questions now while I'm doing this, but let's leave some time at the end to talk through some of these questions. I think the main thing I want to get across today, and something that I have noticed recently, is the need for the idea of an agile coach, and particularly how DA fits into that and how PMI fits into that. So, I think a lot of organizations are to this point are moving to Agile in some way or another. Obviously, a lot in the technology space, but then we were talking in the chat a little bit about this. But I'm seeing it also in construction. I'm seeing it in several ways. There's a firm we're dealing with in Toronto. Well, we work with one firm in Toronto who built an entire hospital using an Agile approach, $2 billion hospital, and we have working with another architecture firm right now who is using Agile to completely redesign and rethink how they build buildings. So, and including all the way through the supply chains and things being delivered and constructed inside the building as it's being up. So some pretty interesting things happen. So I guess my point of all this is, I think we're beyond we've crossed the chasm to where Agile's been a mainstay player. The purpose of this presentation though really is to discuss how do I take my career to the next level, and how do I become an Agile coach. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what an Agile coach is and some things to give some reference to it. My role is I'm the Global Discipline Agile brand lead. So what I do then is I do conferences like this where we talk about DA, I explain what it is, I work with our largest stakeholders. As you know, I think George mentioned that we're a member organization. You saw some of the members that we are working with. And so I interface with them to help them understand sort of where we fit. This is an important point, and I really want to emphasize this. PMIs are not-for-profit organizations. So this is important because in the Agile space, there's nobody else like this, right? Who has the reach and the mindset of purely our only goal is to make people more successful at whatever it is they do around project management. In our case, on Discipline Agile, it really comes through, particularly when I show you the offering. You're going to see how what we have basically done is we have reached into all of the different ways of people doing Agile today, and there are several for-profit and some not-for-profit frameworks, and we've gone in and unlocked those practices and put them into a consumable format that now means they're available to anybody in any situation, and we provide guidance on how to use those practices in the various situations. And so what that does is it brings Agile completely to a brand new space, right? Which is to say that now we can use whatever method we find to be the most valuable in the context that we find ourselves. And that really is what being an Agile coach is all about, is bridging that gap. Before, when it was all locked inside frameworks, there's a lot of work to be done there to understand all the frameworks, but in many ways, we've simplified that. So let's just talk about what an Agile coach is. An Agile coach, I'm not going to read the slide, but it's a person who helps an organization adopt different ways of working. So there's Agile and Lean. They're like the right hand and left hand as far as I'm concerned of how things are done. And this quote came from the Scrum Alliance. So many people have taken the Certified Scrum Master course. It's a great starting point. We can all agree it's a great starting point. But this is how they describe it. So they help an organization adopt Agile practices and methods. In terms of the types of coaches, right? We have a Scrum Masters would be a coach, Agile team coach, which is really what we're talking about here, an Agile enterprise coach, a Lean portfolio program manager course. Now these next ones are for really much larger organizations, but at the very top would be the value stream coach. What we're going to talk about is the Agile team coach. I'm not sure if this slide is particularly relevant and the numbers are close, but the difference in salary income between a Scrum Master and Agile coach is pretty significant. It's about a 30% lift. and many people can do them from, many coaches that we're particularly now are doing it from a remote perspective. So what are the skills that an Agile coach has, an Agile team coach? So they tend to lead a team or several teams. They tend to manage high-profile initiatives that are critical to successes, and they take agility to the next level. They help to customize the Agile way of working to the team or teams of teams that they're involved with. So what's the normal path? So let's say PMI didn't exist with DA. How would you become an Agile coach? Well, what you used to do is became a certified Scrum Master, gained a few years of experience, and then you called yourself an Agile coach. And literally, that's how probably 80% of the Agile coaches out there operate. The problem is that employers know this is this is how a lot of people do it, and they've expressed extreme dissatisfaction with the quality of the Agile coaching. So if you were to go out and just even, I haven't done this, but if you went and Googled, finding a good Agile coach or something like that, quality of an Agile coach, etc., you would see this problem, which is, how do I know that I've got someone who can actually do the job? And a big part of that is because we haven't made it into effectively, I would say, we haven't made it into a repeatable business process. Now, there are organizations that are working on this, certainly not just PMI, but there are organizations that are working on at sort of the fringe edges of this problem. And those are things that we've incorporated into Discipline Agile, and I would even consider to have a combined certification program. But what we're seeing is this problem is translating to the next problem, which is organizations are working with coaches who are putting projects at risk, and we see this a lot. In fact, I was talking to an insurance company about this just yesterday, about how they're having this problem and it manifests itself in slow time to market, frustration of teams, of course, but slow time to market. So how do we help then? So we have built a certification. First of all, PMI, I think we can all agree, is a certification leadership organization. We partnered and then purchased a Discipline Agile, which is, I've put in the chat, is used by IBM. So IBM has agreed recently that they will be using Discipline Agile in all of their in their delivery for Agile transformation services, and I'll show you how it simplifies things and why they did that. We have I mentioned this earlier, we've taken Agile coaching and made it into a repeatable business system. So the nice thing is with that, and I'll show you how that works in a moment here, it really lets you accelerate your path to being an Agile coach. In fact, in the early days, before PMI purchased Discipline Agile, we used to call DA an Agile coach in a box. So it's with that mindset, right? To help let everybody, and may who want to do it, at least, to become an Agile coach. So what is that? What is DA? It was mentioned before. It's a toolkit of practices on how to do Agile. It's unique from the industry. It's everything else is practice first, right? So it's, for example, take Scrum. Scrum would say, do a stand-up meeting. I'm taking one of their 5 practices. Do a stand-up meeting. We have done it differently. We have said, let's be outcome-based, and let's pick the practice and show the choices of the practices that gets us to that outcome. So there's 21 outcomes in total, and we've identified to get those outcomes. There's 143 decisions that are important to consider to get that outcome, and 1,500, approximately 1,500. I haven't counted them all, but probably 1,500 practices that should be considered to get there. Okay, so that's a lot. right? There's a lot in there. Just to give you a sense of it, DA was updated in July to version, it's now at version 5.2, and it was updated last week to now 5.3. So it's going through an update about every 4 months or so. So what that means is that as an Agile coach, you now have a place you can go to find out, what the changes are and what the changes are and how to implement them. So the idea is you can start simple with Scrum, and we give you step-by-step guidance on how to move to something very advanced layers of agility. What I call the Amazon model, right? It's step-by-step. You can stop anywhere. You can start anywhere, and you can stop anywhere. And a large part, the reason why I use the Amazon model here is to say, and many organizations are not nearly as advanced as, I can't think of anybody as advanced as Amazon, but a big part of that is some very technical practices around DevOps. So maybe not applicable everywhere, but the point is you can go a fairly long ways with Discipline Agile. So it's I'm just looking at the time. So it's 5:42. What I'm going to do is a couple more slides, and then I want to just show you the online tool that was just briefly shown before. Some of this we've talked about. The Discipline Agile came from Scott Ambler, who was working at IBM at the time, and they use it across their platform. They stopped using it in about 2012, and as they were as the other frameworks were kind of coming into the market, but they've now, just as I mentioned earlier, just gone back to it and said, yeah, we're going to bring DA back in, and I work with PMI to help to build that out. The other thing that was interesting, this just happened as well, was that in one of the gentlemen, Amal Panal, he represents the enterprise agility business for IBM. So, in his space, there's about 100,000 IBM service professionals. And he's trying to, he's hiring Scrum Masters and consultants as fast as he possibly can. And his point was, he came on one of our sessions with us and said he would give preference to people who knew Discipline Agile, because he felt that they could take Agile sort of to the next level. So that's a pretty big endorsement for where we're at. I guess I'll just mention, because it's worth mentioning, it comes up pretty frequently. DA is, I would say, is an emerging way of tackling this problem of how to become an Agile leader. And we are growing market share, so we're certainly not, as everyone knows, not a lot of people are asking for it, that's for sure. Not a lot of people really understand sort of where it fits. I think it might be a framework or something else, and I think that's an opportunity. I think if you're an Agile coach and you can discuss what DA is about during the your discussions with future employers or current employers, and show them how it's different and how that the skill set that you have is really quite a breakaway from anything else that they've been looking at. I think that gives the candidates really a leg up. It gives you a unique advantage that you just, if you walk in as another Scrum Master, you're going to be like everybody else, right? So, and that, if you want to send me an email later, talk about that more, we can certainly do that. Let me just quickly go to a scenario. I want to show you how this works, and then I'm going to open up for questions. So let's say you're an organization and they come to you with this problem. You got a 40-person project that's going to last 2 years. The question is, how should you approach it? Should you use Scrum, Kanban, Safe, or whatever? And this could be considered, a pretty straightforward thing. But let me just pull up something here. Something else here. Give me one quick sec. And this was shown just briefly, which is the DA browser. But let's say that's the problem we're trying to solve. Now, the training, you learn all about this, and in fact, we're going to have an offer for training that includes 2 things. One, there's really 2 courses. There's what we call the Scrum Master course, and the Senior Scrum Master course. Okay, so Senior Scrum Master really is an Agile coach, right? So we're going to offer a like a free Scrum Master course, assuming that you purchase an instructor-led course on the coaching course from Afroscience. So you'll learn. My point of saying that you would learn all of this in that training, how this all works. But I know it obviously, so I can go through this pretty quickly. So we have a 40-person team, and we're going to do a 2-year project. And the question is, what's the approach that we should be using? So the way DA is set up is we have a goal, which is evolve your way of working. And then we have decisions, which are, we need to, for example, and all these boxes here are all the decisions. So for example, our decision we need to make is we need to select the life cycle. And we have choices: waterfall, Scrum, exploratory, safe, etc. So what DA does, and you'll notice there's a line here with an arrow pointing up. This shows what higher levels of agility are. So at the bottom is, waterfall. We all agree, I think that's not Agile at all. But continuous delivery lean, which is the Amazon model, is high delivery. You'll also notice that things are changing under the screen below here is changing. So let me give you an example. So we got 40 people, 2 years. We got to pick a framework. If we pick waterfall, it will give a quick description of what waterfall is, right? Software built in a serial manner through a series of phases, requirements, architecture, design, etc. And then it gives the trade-offs of it. So it's a comfortable approach for IT professionals who have not yet transitioned to Agile. It's appropriate for low-risk projects, etc. So it gives some context for it. And it does that for all the different frameworks, right? Scrum, exploratory, safe, etc. In our case, let's just take a look at safe, because this is a pretty popular one. So it's a life cycle for large multi-stream squads working on a single product. Okay, that would apply to us. 40 is pretty large. But many of the process decisions are prescribed, making it an easier life cycle to adopt in the short term. Well, that's valuable to us potentially. Oriented towards large programs, 50 to 250 people. Well, that doesn't apply to us because we're 40. So it helps us narrow down which way we should go and what we should be looking at and what we should consider using. So that's the idea of it, right? And this is exactly the same type of knowledge you would expect an Agile coach to have right here, and particularly to be outcome driven. So this is that was a pretty simple example, right? Picking up, between various places. But let's say, for example, way more, important when someone says, how do we actually speed up our time to market? I should mention, I do these presentations a lot, and I have questions I ask at the beginning. What's the most important outcome you want? You want to increase your time to market, reduce your cost, increase time to value, increase quality, or increase predictability. And always, 100% of the time in the last year, it's always time to market. Well, PMI, DA has a goal for that. Under construction, we call it accelerate value delivery. And here are the decisions as a Scrum Master you should consider to accelerate your time to market, right? Choose a deployment. I'm not gonna read them all, but and then beside each decision, everything that's highlighted are recommended practices. And so, as a coach and as someone who is adding value to an organization's delivery processes, you come equipped with answers that are documented, that are repeatable. We talk about leadership not buying into Agile. I totally get that. That's probably, that's a big issue. Now, you can use this tool with leadership to walk them through their different options, and that it's endorsed by PMI. And that's a big deal because, George pointed out, the size and the depth that we have is significant, and we carry a lot. I believe and our members have told me that we carry a lot of credibility with them. So that's how it works. But I want to just say I've shown some pretty advanced things here. There's lots in here, and you'll learn this, if you take the course a lot in here that's more simplified, right? So how do I, for example, let's say you're working in finance or something. Well, how do I form a team? Well, we have a whole, the outcome is to form a team. And here are the decisions for forming a team. And here are all the options for making a team. So you can use that for finance or, or accounting or legal or whatever. So you can use it in areas. So I've only got 9 minutes left, so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to pass it back to Mika, unless there's questions. I'll look in the chat here in a second, and open it up for any questions. Actually, I want to just, while we're opening the questions up, I'll put the slide up about what the offer is. So, Mika, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, John. Thank you. Really grateful for that presentation. I want to ask the house if there's any question. I don't know if there's any question. Feel free to unmute your mic and ask the question. We only have about 8 minutes left to go before George gives his closing remark. Any question? Okay, while we're waiting for that, John, there's a question from David. He mentioned, I think Olaliko actually answered that, but let me just ask it again. Which is the preferred or best accepting Agile or Scrum certification in the market within PMI and outside PMI? What's your response to that, John?
So the question is, what's the best? What is the best, sir?
Yeah.
What's the best, sir? If it was me, I would have you need to have some type of a Scrum cert. You need to have something there for sure. And then I would suggest, I think the ACP is a good cert. I think it's good. I would say if you want to be a leader, you probably want to have the SM, which you could do. You could actually, get a lot of that material by just going through the book. But I would say the ACP and the SSM are probably the two most important certs from a volume and career perspective. That's what I would suggest.
All right, thank you, John. Okay, you also have another question here from Shegun. What experience is required for this certification? The Agile certification.
So you need to understand. Well, you need to understand what Scrum is, for sure. So a little bit on Scrum, maybe worked in a Scrum area. We normally would say you need 2 years experience to take this cert, but in this particular case, we are going to offer the DASM. So I call it the prep course at no charge for the first 20 people who sign up. So that cuts that 2 years down to maybe 6 months. Makes a big difference. So 6 months, you know Scrum, a little bit about Scrum, or you come to the course knowing what Scrum is, then you could then this would all make sense.
Okay. All right. He also asked, the DA course offer is exam inclusive, right?
Yep. The exam's included. That's right.
Okay. Then Omotosho also asked, the PMI, ACP, and DSM are the foundation certifications from the PM point of view, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. The ACP is a different sort of cert than the DA material. The ACP is more general. It's good knowledge. I mean, it's very good knowledge, but it's more general. So you could actually become an Agile coach without the ACP. You could do it and just go SM and then SSM. So there's a bit, so it's not a requirement, I guess is my point. But the base cert is the SM material.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. I don't think there are any other questions here, but just to let the house know, John, I think what's the steps for registration, the next steps, and the stuff about the promo code, the discount code, promo code we talked about.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be an email sent from Afroscience to the people who came to the webinar, and they will have the registration link with them, so that you can expect to see that from Afroscience.
Okay, with the discount code, right?
Yeah, with all the required material to register, right? So PMI will work directly with Afroscience on the codes for the DASM material, but
Okay.
yeah, so they'll help us with that. So.
All right. So everyone, just to let you know, for every one of us who have attended here today, the AfriSun's partner will be authorized training partner will be sending us registration link and also discount codes for registration for as many of us who are interested in actually advancing in the next level from the Scrum Master level to Agile Coach. So at this point, without much ado, I really want to say thank you for joining us. Please just bear it in mind that we'll be having this webinar second Fridays of the month. We have another team coming up too, and we'll share more information on that. I will hand over to George to give us a closing remark. Thank you, John. Thank you, Telfik. Thank you, Abiodun. Thank you, Oladeko, and everyone for joining us today. Over to you, John. George. Sorry.
Thanks, Emeka. Thanks, everyone. I've just been taking notes. First of all, I'd just like to thank our partners. Thank you, Agile Association of Nigeria, and Obiadun, thanks so much. Thank you, Taufik. Thank you, AfriSons. We heard from you guys around Scrum, that Scrum provides impact and benefits. It's a learning framework, and it's based on, or it's the base knowledge to become a coach. So Scrum is absolutely important. It helps organizations to learn fast. And according to Taufik, you want to avoid being eaten for breakfast, right? So that is one reason why you want to be doing Agile and you want to be doing Scrum. Then we heard from John and Olalekon, specifically around DA. DA is a toolkit of practices on how to do Agile. It's all outcome based. So you think of what you want to achieve, and DA will help you to do that. So, this is just my very, very quick summary. Of course, there's a lot more detail, but I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone. Like Emeka said, look out for the upcoming sessions. We'll be having more stakeholders from East Africa and Southern Africa as well, our partners and stakeholders over there. Get in touch with us. You can email Emeka directly. I believe he's posted his email address in the chat, so feel free to contact us, whether to participate in webinars or to get support for your organization in terms of getting upskilled on Agile. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the weekend. Happy Friday. Thank you.
Happy Friday. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.